I first arrived in the UK when I was about 6 years old, and I didn't speak any English, like at all. Before I came, I did attend some English classes in China, but I didn't take those seriously, and let's say I didn't retain much. Learning a second language wasn't exactly on the list of priorities for my younger self. Funnily enough, whenever I attempt to recollect the past, my memory tells me that I had no problems communicating in English. Clearly, that cannot be true. So to get to the bottom of this, I asked some of my friends, quite recently actually, about my English skills back then, and apparently not only could I not speak English, I just spoke to everyone at school in Chinese, including my teachers. I was told that they didn't understand a word I was saying, which would make sense if I was really just talking in Chinese. Apparently, they just played along and pretended they could understand. This is oddly embarrassing, even though it's in the distant past, and evidently my memory from my childhood is not as accurate as I thought it was. Anyway, aside from the language barrier, primary school in the UK was interesting. I can't speak for other schools, but the one I went to, let's say while you had to show up, beyond that I don't recall learning very much. Let's start with the positives. We had a nice uniform, I thought. It was a blue jumper with a gold crest logo and a white t-shirt underneath. We also wore black shoes and grey trousers. We had this cute little blue folder bag thing, but I never used it because we didn't have any books to carry to school, which is very odd because one would expect them to be required. Anyway, the way it worked was all the textbooks and equipment you needed for school was provided and everyone had their name stuck on a tray with all of your stuff. This was really strange because you would expect that we would need to at least do some kind of reading or homework at home, but apparently not. If I'm being completely honest, we were never really given any homework, and in the rare occasions we didn't take it very seriously. It was a lot of fun though, since that meant a lot of free time, as we finished school every day at around 3 p.m. My friends and I messed around, getting into all sorts of different stuff, and trouble. We played a lot of video games. First, the Game Boy with Pokemon, the PS1, I remember playing GTA, the Neo Geo Pocket as well, that was a lot of fun. There was a yo-yo phase, when everybody had yo-yos, a Pokemon card phase, which I talked about in my other video, and then a Beyblade phase, which, come to think of it, reminds me a lot of fidget spinners. Oh yeah, there was also a Card Captor Sakura phase somewhere along the line too. I remember rushing home to watch anime on TV one day after school. Instead of Card Captor Sakura, the news channel took over and there were two towers up in smoke. I think I was too young then to realize what was actually going on and being upset because my cartoons were being interrupted by towers up in flame, which I didn't understand the context of. Evidently, my younger self was much more concerned with which card Sakura was about to capture next. Anyway, as I got a little older, and by older I mean about 12 or so, so not that much older, my parents began making me study a lot more as I had to prepare for the exams to get into secondary school. So basically, I wasn't able to get away with bumming around anymore as easily. I can't remember exactly what the exams are called anymore because it was such a long time ago, but in the UK you have a couple of methods of getting into a good secondary school. Number one is simply live close to the school. If you're lucky and live next to a good school, then you can automatically get in. Number two is to have one of your parents work at the school as a teacher. Number three is to have a brother or sister who was or is at the school currently. Number four is to be rich and go to a private school. Typically, private schools are much better than public schools, unsurprisingly. And finally, number five, failing all these, take the exam. This was me. Fortunately, I was quite comfortable with mathematics and I did do a lot of revision for these exams. I remember my mum would reward me with £1 for every stack of exam papers I finished. With that money, I bought a lot of Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh cards, so I was happy. When in doubt, just pay your kids to study and bribe them. Anyway, I took the admissions exams. I'm just going to dox myself and say that I applied for Queen Elizabeth, which was a really good school, which I didn't get into. They focused a lot on the verbal reasoning test, and that was too challenging for me at the time since it was heavily language based. A lot of other schools focused much more on the math score, so I went to one of the local grammar schools, which I think was still a big win overall. I don't actually know how grammar schools are formally defined in the UK, so I'm just going to use my own definition. Usually they're public schools, so regular people can get in because you don't have to pay money, aka me. Secondly, you have to score quite highly in the admissions tests, which to be fair I did revise quite a lot for. Finally, they're all single-sex schools. The secondary school I went to was an all-boys school, and I loved the idea of it at first. I didn't get along with girls, which to be honest was mostly my fault because I had the emotional quotient of a fruitcake when I was younger. So I thought that being at a boys' school would be a fantastic experience. Mixed feelings about that projection by my younger self. Let's say that enthusiasm didn't last very long towards having no girls at the school. And so I was a little sad by the end of all this because none of my primary school friends passed the exam to get into the school I did, and so I had to try and make new friends. This wasn't too surprising though, since I think I was the only person who actually prepared for the exams. It's a shame that it falls solely to the parents to encourage us since the school I went to didn't make any effort to be supportive on that front. Everyone was thrown into the deep end for examination, and it was like the Squid Games where most people weren't prepared. But that's another story for another time where I might make a video on my experience at secondary school. I hope this was at least vaguely interesting for you guys, but anyway, thanks for watching.